Ford's Willow Run plant alone was producing more heavy bombers than all of Germany's aircraft factories combined. Oberstleutenant Nicholas Ritter, head of AB's Air Intelligence Section upon furl Luft, had spent 3 weeks analyzing the data. A former Lufthansa pilot who had lived in America for 10 years before the war, Ritter understood American industrial capacity better than most German officers. His apartment in Manhattan during the 1920s had overlooked the construction of the Chrysler Building. He had watched Americans erect the world's tallest building in less than 2 years. Rear Admiral Ritter reported to Canaris, "If these numbers are correct, and I believe they are, then Germany has already lost the war. It is now only a question of mathematics and time." The intelligence came through circuitous routes, each more dangerous than the last. Georg Nicholas, running the AB's primary network in Mexico City, had cultivated sources among American businessmen who traveled freely between Detroit and Mexico's oil fields. These men spoke casually of miracles they witnessed, unaware their dinner conversations were being transcribed by German agents. On February 3, 1943, American oil executive Harold Morrison had attended a reception at the German-Mexican Commerce Association in Mexico City. After several tequilas, Morrison began describing his recent tour of the Willow Run facility arranged by Ford to showcase to potential investors the company's capability to fulfill government contracts. "Gentlemen," Morrison had said, unaware that Wolfgang Blau, a German agent posing as an Argentine leather merchant, was memorizing every word. "What I saw defies description. The assembly line is over a mile long. The building is so vast that clouds form inside it, and it sometimes rains within the factory. They have 42,000 workers, including thousands of women, Negro women, building the most complex machine ever created." Morrison had pulled out a pencil and began sketching on a napkin. "The bomber has 2 bomb bays, each holding 4,000 pounds of ordnance, 4 engines, each producing 1,200 horsepower. They produce them in sections, subassemblies Ford calls them, that converge like rivers flowing into the sea. Wing sections arrive from one direction, fuselages from another, tail assemblies from a third. They meet at precise points along the line." Blam had asked, trying to sound casually interested. "But surely such complexity means frequent breakdowns, production delays." Morrison had laughed. "That's what Consolidated Aircraft thought. They mocked Ford, said you can't build planes like cars. But Ford broke the bomber down into 60,000 separate operations. Each worker performs the same task over and over. A woman who yesterday was making breakfast for her children now installs hydraulic lines in the tail section. They train them in days, not months." Perhaps the most detailed intelligence came through Francisco Franco's Spain. Colonel José Ungria, Spanish military attaché in Washington, maintained close relationships with American aircraft manufacturers while secretly providing intelligence to Germany in exchange for tungsten shipments crucial to Spanish industry. In March 1943, Unria attended a reception at the Argentine embassy where he met Charles Sorensen, Ford's production chief and the architect of Willow Run. Sorensen, believing he was speaking to a representative of a neutral nation that might purchase aircraft after the war, spoke freely about the plant's capabilities. Colonel Sorensen had said, unaware that every word would be in Berlin within 2 weeks. "When I first visited Consolidated San Diego plant in 1940, they were building B-24s outdoors in the sunshine, each one different from the last, taking 180,000 man-hours per aircraft. I knew we could do better." Gria had pressed for details, claiming professional interest as a military engineer. Sorensen, proud of his achievement, obliged. "I spent one night in my hotel room in San Diego sketching out the entire production flow. We would build bombers like we build cars, not by having workers swarm over a stationary aircraft, but by moving the aircraft past stationary workers. Each worker would perform specific tasks repeatedly, achieving perfection through repetition. The Spaniard had asked about the workforce challenges of such complexity. "We built an apprentice school that trains 8,000 workers weekly," Sorensen replied. "Women comprise 40% of our workforce. They're actually better at detailed work, smaller hands for tight spaces, more patience for repetitive tasks. We have Negro workers operating sophisticated machinery. We have boys of 16 managing supply logistics." Democracy kernel means utilizing all available human resources. Through Swedish, Argentine, Japanese, and Turkish channels, German intelligence received consistent reports confirming Willow Run's production rate. Swedish engineer Erik Lundberg visited the plant in March 1943 and reported, "The plant operates with efficiency that defies European understanding. They use 1,600 specialized machine tools, many designed for single operations. The capital investment is staggering. Perhaps $200 million for tooling alone." Japanese commander Toshikazu Omi's coded message to Tokyo, intercepted by German intelligence, provided independent verification. This single factory produces more aircraft monthly than entire Japanese aviation industry. By April 1943, German intelligence had assembled comprehensive data from 17 independent sources, confirming the production rate. The numbers were staggering. Willow Run alone was producing 650 B-24s monthly at peak, with the entire American B-24 production exceeding 1,400 monthly. Desperate for ground truth, Canary authorized Operation Pastorius, the insertion of saboteurs into the United States via submarine. George John Dash, leader of one of the two four-man teams, had lived in America for 20 years before returning to Germany in 1939. His secret orders from Canaris were to gather intelligence on aircraft production before conducting any sabotage operations. In the early morning hours of June 13, 1942, Dash's team landed at Amagansett, Long Island, having come ashore from U-202 just after midnight. Within days, tormented by the implications of his mission and what he already knew about American capacity, Dash surrendered to the FBI. During his interrogation, Dash revealed something that stunned his American captives. Canaris himself told me that Berlin doesn't believe your production figures. They think Willow Run is propaganda. He wanted photographs, employee counts, shipping records, proof that would force Goering to accept reality. FBI Special Agent Charles Landman asked incredulously, "They don't believe we're producing a bomber an hour." Dash laughed bitterly. "Agent Landman, I lived here. I've seen your automobile factories. I tried to tell them that if Ford could produce a car every minute before the war, they could certainly produce a bomber every hour during it. They accused me of being defaced." On April 20, 1943, Hitler's 54th birthday, Canaris personally presented the intelligence to Goering at Karen Hall, the Reichsmarshal's ostentatious hunting estate north of Berlin. The meeting would become legendary among German intelligence officers for Goering's complete rejection of reality. Canaris had brought photographs, intercepted documents, reports from dozens of sources. He spread them across Goering's massive oak table like a dealer showing cards that would lose the game. "Herr Reichsmarschall," Canaris began carefully, "we have confirmation from 17 independent sources. The Ford Willow Run plant is producing one B-24 Liberator every hour at peak production. They achieved this rate consistently since January." Goering, weighing over 280 pounds by this point in the war, picked up one of the photographs showing the assembly line stretching into the distance. Canaris Goering said with contempt, "Do you take me for a fool? These are obviously wooden mock-ups, props for propaganda." The Americans want us to believe they can build aircraft like sausages. This Willow Run plant probably produces 50 bombers monthly at most. Canaris pulled out another document, an intercepted manifest from the Pennsylvania Railroad showing aluminum shipments. Herr Reichsmarshal, they're consuming 16 million pounds of aluminum monthly at this one plant. That's more than our entire monthly production. Goering laughed harshly. Then where do they get this aluminum? From their Negro workers? From their women riveters? Canaris, you've been deceived by American propaganda. A week later, Canaris was summoned to the Wolfschanze to brief Hitler personally. The meeting included Generals Jodl and Keitel and propaganda minister Sef Goebbels. Hitler, studying maps of the Eastern Front, where the Wehrmacht was preparing for Operation Citadel, the Battle of Kursk, listened impatiently as Canaris presented the intelligence. Mein Führer, Canaris said, knowing he was risking his life. If the Americans are producing 1,400 B-24s monthly, plus equal numbers of B-17 plus their fighter aircraft plus British production, the aerial bombardment of the Reich will soon exceed our defensive capabilities. Hitler's response was characteristic. Admiral, the Americans are capable of mass production of simple goods, automobiles, refrigerators, but a bomber is not a car. It requires precision, skill, dedication. When it took us 6 years to prepare for war, they claim to have achieved this in 16 months. It's impossible. General Jodl studied Canaris figures and made a calculation. Even if we accept 1/4 of these figures as accurate, the figures are false, Hitler interrupted. The Americans entered the war in December 1941. Building this miraculous factory and achieving this production in such time is impossible. Unknown to Nazi leadership, Canaris had obtained film footage of Willow Run in operation through American intelligence contacts in Switzerland. The film smuggled via Spanish diplomatic pouches showed 5 minutes of the assembly line in full operation. Canaris and his deputy Hans Oster watched the film in a locked room in Abwehr headquarters. The camera traveled along the entire mile-long assembly line. B-24s in every stage of construction moved past at steady pace. Workers, men, women, black, white, performed tasks with mechanical precision. A clock visible in several shots confirmed the timing. My God, Oster whispered. It's true. Canaris lit the film with his cigarette lighter, watching it burn. We cannot show this to them. They would accuse us of creating fake footage or being traitors. In November 1943, German intelligence obtained aerial photographs of Willow Run taken by a Spanish diplomat. Photo analysts spent weeks studying the images. Their conclusions: parking lots contained approximately 12,000 cars, indicating 3-shift operations. Completed B-24s visible at adjacent airfield. 47 aircraft ready for delivery. Assembly line visible through skylights. Aircraft spaced exactly as reported. Rail sidings showed dozens of freight cars delivering materials. Hedman Bernard wrote, "Photographic evidence confirms human intelligence. Production rate appears accurate. Recommend immediate strategic reassessment." Goring shown the photographs dismissed them as clever American photographic manipulation, probably using scale models. Dr. Albert Speer, Hitler's armaments minister and the only Nazi leader with genuine understanding of industrial production, secretly obtained the American intelligence. His diary entry for May 15, 1943, discovered after the war, reveals his despair. If the Willow Run figures are even half accurate, we face not defeat but annihilation. They produce more aircraft in a month than we do in a year, but I cannot speak this truth. To do so would be my death warrant. Dr. Otto Allendorf, head of SD Inland and a trained economist, analyzed American economic data. His report to Himmler in December 1943 was stark. The Ford Motor Company's peacetime production in 1941 was 1.1 million vehicles. They have converted this capacity to bomber production at current rates. By June 1944, the Americans will have produced enough B-24s alone to drop our entire 1940 London bombing tonnage every single day. On Christmas Eve 1943, Canaris received intelligence showing American production projections for 1944. B-24 Liberators 18,000, B-17 Flying Fortresses 1200 B-29, Superfortresses 1,000 fighter aircraft 40,000. Total 86,000 aircraft. Hitler's response when presented these figures. The Americans claim they will produce more aircraft in 1944 than all nations have produced in all of history. It's absurd. By February 1944, Canaris was removed from his position, suspected of defeatism and treason. His replacement, Walter Schellenberg, was a Nazi loyalist who wouldn't dare contradict Hitler or Göring. But reality couldn't be ignored forever. On February 20, 1944, Big Week, the American 8th Air Force launched Operation Argument, sending over 1,000 heavy bombers against German aircraft factories. In 6 days, they dropped more bomb tonnage than the Luftwaffe had dropped on Britain during the entire Blitz. Luftwaffe fighter pilot Adolf Galland told Göring, "Herr Reichsmarschall, I've counted over 800 bombers in a single formation. These planes are real and they're dropping real bombs." On June 6, 1944, over 11,000 Allied aircraft appeared over France. The Luftwaffe could muster fewer than 300 fighters in response. Feldmarschall Hugo Speer sent a desperate message to Berlin. The enemy's aerial superiority is absolute. Our intelligence was correct. We were deceived not by the Americans, but by ourselves. By April 1944, Willow Run achieved its peak production rate. That month, employees in 2 9-hour shifts working 6 days a week produced 453 airplanes in 468 hours, a production rate equal to one finished B-24 Liberator every 63 minutes. The plant employed 42,331 workers, including 11,000 women, 26% of workforce. 3,800 African Americans, 9% of workforce. 1,200 disabled workers, 3% of workforce. This demographic breakdown would have shattered Nazi racial ideology completely. The inferior races and weaker sects were outproducing the German master race by orders of magnitude. After the war, surviving German intelligence officers revealed the full scope of the failure. Walter Schellenberg testified at Nuremberg. "We knew the truth about American production by early 1943. Every professional intelligence officer understood the numbers were accurate. But to report this truth was to risk execution for defeatism." Hans-Bern Gazivius wrote in his memoirs, "The tragedy was not that we lacked intelligence about American production. We were drowning in it. The tragedy was that our leadership refused to believe it because it contradicted their racial ideology. The German intelligence officers who tried to report the truth paid a heavy price." Admiral Wilhelm Canaris, executed April 9, 1945 at Flossenburg concentration camp. Hans Oster, executed April 9, 1945 at Flossenburg concentration camp. Alexis von Rohen, executed October 1944 for involvement in July 20th plot. Hans-Bern Gavius escaped to Switzerland, survived the war. The United States Strategic Bombing Survey confirmed what German intelligence had reported. Willow Run produced 8,685 B-24s between 1942 and 1945. Peak production was 650 aircraft monthly. The hourly rate was sustained for months. Total cost per aircraft dropped from $238,000 to $137,000. Albert Speer in post-war interrogation was asked why Germany didn't believe the intelligence about American production. To accept that Ford could produce a bomber every hour was to accept that our entire worldview was wrong. That democracy wasn't weak but strong. That racial mixing didn't create weakness but strength. That women could do men's work. It would mean accepting that we had started a war we could never win. Who would tell Hitler that? Rose Willow Monroe, the real-life inspiration for Rosie the Riveter, operated a rivet gun on the B-24 production line. She and thousands of women like her had never worked in industry before Pearl Harbor. We knew we were building something important, Monroe said in a 1984 interview. Every rivet we drove was going to help end the war. We worked double shifts sometimes, sleeping in the parking lot between shifts. We had brothers, husbands, sweethearts flying these planes. The failure to believe intelligence about Willow Run had catastrophic consequences. Fighter production. Germany continued producing bombers until late 1944. Resource allocation. Resources wasted on wonder weapons instead of practical defenses. Strategic planning. Operations planned for facing hundreds of bombers, not thousands. Diplomatic failures. Peace overtures delayed due to not understanding certain defeat. German economists analyzing captured documents realized the true-scale Willow Run cost $200 million. German entire aircraft industry investment 1933 to 1945 $400 million equivalent. Willow Run floor space 3.5 million square ft. All German aircraft factories combined. 8 million square ft. Willow Run electrical consumption 2.5 million kilowatts monthly. The Americans had built a single factory consuming more resources than entire German cities. The final accounting by war's end, the full scale was revealed. Total B-24s produced 18,188. Willow Run built 8,685. Total B-17s produced 12,731. Total American aircraft produced 1945 33,717. Total German aircraft produced 1940 to 1945 94,700. The United States produced 3.2 times more aircraft than Germany while fighting a two-ocean war. Historians call the German intelligence failure regarding American production one of the most consequential in military history. It wasn't a failure of collection. German agents gathered accurate, detailed intelligence. It was a failure of acceptance. Leadership refusing to believe intelligence, contradicting their worldview. Dr. Gerd Weinberg concluded, German intelligence accurately assessed American production capacity by early 1943. Had this intelligence been believed and acted upon, Germany might have sought peace 2 years earlier, saving millions of lives. The story carries profound lessons. Cognitive bias. Accurate intelligence can be rejected if it contradicts core beliefs. Ideological blindness. Political ideology can override mathematical reality. Systemic failure. Intelligence systems punishing unwelcome truth receive comfortable lies. Fatal miscalculation. Underestimating opponents leads to catastrophic errors. At the 1985 dedication of the Yankee Air Museum at Willow Run, former Rosie the Riveter Rose Willow Monroe met former Luftwaffe pilot Hans Rudel. Rudel asked, "How did you build so many so fast?" Monroe answered, "Honey, we just went to work every day and did our job. Nothing fancy. Just punch in, build bombers, punch out." Democracy isn't complicated. It's just free people doing their best. Rudel responded, "We were told democracy made you weak, that your diversity made you inefficient. We were told lies, and those lies killed millions." In the ruins of Berlin, May 1945, American intelligence officers discovered a final German intelligence report on Willow Run. Dated April 20, 1945, Hitler's last birthday. Willow Run production confirmed. We reported this truth 2 years ago. We were not believed. Germany dies not from lack of intelligence, but from lack of wisdom to believe intelligence that contradicts what we wish to be true. Let future generations learn reality does not bend to ideology. Mathematics does not yield to mythology. Truth ignored becomes tragedy. The report was never delivered. By then Hitler was in his bunker. The 1,000-year Reich had days to live, and thousands of American bombers, many built at Willow Run, delivered the final argument German intelligence had tried to make 2 years earlier. The verdict of history is clear. German intelligence was excellent. German intelligence acceptance was catastrophic. In that failure to believe uncomfortable truths lies a warning for all nations. Reality doesn't care what you believe. Those who deny reality in favor of ideology will ultimately be destroyed by it. Willow Run built more than bombers. It built proof that democracy works, that diversity strengthens, that freedom produces. German spies counted them all. German leaders believed none. And that disbelief killed the Third Reich as surely as any bomb.